Welcome to the Transnet Podcast. My name is Zimasa Vabaza and we are at the South Africa Investment Conference. And today we are unpacking different aspects of the business and the business's national importance. The broader message for the conference is accelerating business growth through building partnerships. And most important to that is Transnet. And Transnet is investing in South Africa's capacity expansion. Today I'm with Dr. Bridget Gasa Toboti, the Transnet National Ports Authority Portfolio Director for the KZN Logistics Hub. Hi, Mamunjan.
Good afternoon, Zimasa. Yaphila. When I'm John.
No, I'm good. I think I want to set the stage for people who are listening and for those who are watching. We're at the South Africa Investment Conference. Why is it important for a business like Transnet to be in spaces like this, to talk about its investment plans and what it's doing?
It is incredibly important for Transnet to be present at platforms such as these, because if we are meaningful and intentional by saying that we think that we play a role in growing the investment capability of the country, and in doing so, being able to play a very central role in connecting the logistics, and being the logistics platform for the country to grow export capacity in whatever way that we can through any one of our operating divisions. Platforms such as these offer that kind of opportunity to get to learn what other people are doing, but also to get to listen to what the investment appetite of both international and local players is, and see whether your own strategies are well suited to respond to those kinds of ideals.
I absolutely love that context, and why it's so important is because my next question lends itself to your realm of expertise, which is the KZN Logistics Hub program. What is this program?
The KwaZulu-Natal Logistics Hub program was conceptualized by Transnet, but is being implemented by the National Ports Authority. It's still in its infancy. I think it's only going to be turning 2 years old in July. But what it has at its hub and its center is a logistics hub strategy that not only responds to Transnet's segment strategy, but looks to position 2 key ports in the country that we have. So as you know, we have 8 commercial ports that are under the guardianship of National Ports Authority. But the ones that are at the center of the KZN Logistics Hub is the Port of Durban and the Port of Richards Bay. The Port of Durban is being positioned as the premier container hub for not just the country but the continent.
Wow.
The Port of Richards Bay is being positioned as a dry bulk hub, looking to grow that export capacity of all of the segments that we have been exporting through that port, but also to be the first ever liquefied natural gas importation site in the country. So that strategy speaks to how best we position them through infrastructure development and make sure that we make our contribution known to growing the economy of South Africa.
Now, when we talk about contribution, for a lot of people that might know and those who also don't know, KZN is very important for our import and export capabilities as a country, nationally. Now, expand on that national importance for us of these 2 ports, and how does that impact South Africa's growth possibilities going forward?
First and foremost, we've got to recognize that infrastructure investments do lay a foundation for economic growth. That's one. And not only do they do so, but they guarantee inclusivity in this economic growth and sustainable growth. So that for us is key, to have a realization that if we mean we're wanting to position these particular ports, what is the level of that infrastructure investment that we're planning to have over the short, over the medium, over the long term? And does it eventually translate to this inclusive growth, but also to this sustained growth? And so for us, we think that if we focus on the goal of delivering this particular program, we would have gone a long way in making sure that we address the supply side constraints, We increase our own contribution to the GDP. We have demonstrable regional, local economic generation, and of course we create jobs and we change the face of society through a program of this size. It's a 160 billion rand program.
Wow.
So if you've been following what the Minister of Finance did say in February when he was tabling his
Yes.
budget speech, he says that the public sector over the medium term is likely to spend around 903 billion, right? And of that 903 billion in infrastructure over the medium term, transport and logistics lay a claim of 360 billion.
Whoa.
Now that's us.
Yeah.
We play in the space of transport and logistics.
Yes.
And so if you're looking at the KZN Logistics Hub program, at an investment envelope of 160, that's half of that
all the
intention.
money coming from the fiscus.
Exactly. So that's the mapped size of this program. And so it's our honor to be charged with that mandate of making sure that we bring to realization that kind of infrastructure investment.
Now, the components of such an expansive program must be vast. What are some of those key components that you're looking at and saying, this investment that's coming in from the fiscus is important, and this is where we're going to place it, and why are we going to place it there? What are those components?
Sure. So out of the approved master plan for the Port of Durban, we are looking at 15 key developments. And the majority of those, 72 billion rands worth of those, is made up of container developments, container terminal developments. So, as I said earlier, we are positioning that particular port to be a premier container hub, but also a premier automotive hub.
Oh,
So as it is, we're exporting autos, we are exporting containers through the port. Our current capacity for containers is currently at about 2.9 million TEUs.
yeah.
The envisaged future is growing that capacity to 11.4 million TEUs.
Wow.
So you do the math in terms of cargo dues and what
Gross,
we're able to draw down from a tariff point of view. And in respect of the autos, we are currently exporting through the Port of Durban 540,000 fully built units, cars.
Wow.
Of course, we end this financial year as Transnet with it being a bumper year because when we got to the end of the financial year, we were already above 600K.
Target met.
The future is 1.1 million FBUs exported out of that particular port. So you can see the kind of scale that we are ramping up to. So what is the embodiment of the Port of Durban's master plan is 4 distinct container terminals, Maiden Wharf, Point Container Terminal, some work that we are going to do around Bayhead, and of course the traditionally and old referred to as Durban Container Terminal.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of marine infrastructure. That's what these components that make up that is. That's just dealing with the Port of Durban, but with the Port of Richards Bay, we are also doing some berth developments there.
Yes.
We are improving quite a lot on road and rail.
Yes.
As you may have been following,
Yes.
the congestion made by trucks going to that port has just made working around the city of
Difficult,
Mhlathuze very difficult and unmanageable. So there's a lot of road and rail investments. There's a lot of container development investments. There is a planned LNG terminal for Richards Bay. And of course, there's the relocation of the South African Navy base from Durban to Richards Bay. So that's just the sum of everything that we're going to be investing in.
So these plans are gargantuan in size. But the most important question that a lot of people ask themselves is, how do these translate to people on the ground, to businesses on the ground, to the micro communities on the ground? And how do we measure the success of programs such as this?
So I've already mentioned that the funding envelope of the KZN Logistics Hub program is 160 billion.
Yeah.
How is that made up? It's made up of these investments and developments we're doing in Durban to the tune of 131 billion. It's made up of 29 billion in the Port of Richards Bay. And they are broken down into different categories: road, rail, as I mentioned, berth capacity development, etc. But the socio-economics impact that we have done tells us that we are not only going to derive a value of about 491,000 jobs out of the key developments in the Port of Durban, but we are also going to get to derive 92,000 full-time equivalent jobs from the Port of Richards Bay. Sorry.
It's fine.
Cut there. So that's massive.
Yeah.
But the socio-economic analysis did not end there in the number of jobs, funding envelope. It also looked at what would the businesses in the regional
In the area.
area be able to derive value from. And so we've got those numbers, and it's what we take to the businesses in the area to sell the idea of this joint partnership in developments of this size, so that they can see
Yes.
that success will look like our children being able to come out of university
Yes.
and being able to be absorbed
Yeah.
by TNPA in the implementation of those kinds of projects, as opposed to developing a pipeline
Yes.
that would be misplaced at the end of the road. So there are many other facets of what the key social impacts, both from an economic point of view, but also from just a changing of the fabric of
Yes.
of life and livelihoods around the area would look like when we are fully done with the implementation of the master plans.
Doctor, what really fascinates me and encourages me is how this plan is a national plan, but is regional in its focus, and it's not spreading investment around. It's focusing investment via a very important state-owned enterprise, which is Transnet, and even a very important corridor, which is the KZN corridor. And I appreciate the context that you've given us, myself, and anybody who watches this podcast and this vodcast. And I want to understand in closing, when all of this is done and we are able to measure the success on the ground, how do we ensure that this is something that as a country we can keep going? You've spoken about it, you've touched on it, but how do we keep this type of investment going in the right areas like this, and how do we build from such? So when this program is done and it starts to really reap rewards, how do we then say, what's next, what's next, what's next?
Sure. Very important question, that one. Perhaps a step back would be a question that we get asked quite a lot. There have been other strategic programs driven by Transnet that started well but didn't see the end, the light of day. And then having a critical analysis as to what is it that went wrong. I mean, I can cite two. We had the MDS strategy.
Yes.
But we also had the Durban Dig Out Port, which was a massive program, maybe not to the size of the current KZN Logistics Hub. So, there are many things that you can cite as having been contributors to those programs not being successful. But for me, what is key is that if you don't promulgate plans that have got this kind of great strategic ambition, that is not going only to impact the regional economy, the provincial economy, but will absolutely do a dent in the bringing down of the very high levels of unemployment and inequality in the country. If you don't lock them in through promulgating them, and then they almost become national plans, national infrastructure plans that are able to
national mandates.
Yes, that are able to be funded mandates, right? But also that are able to absorb the shocks of changes in leadership
Yes.
as and when it happens. And you say to the country, you focus on this 10-year infrastructure and investment plan, and promulgating it means then you set it as a peg on the ground, and whoever comes in to take any shape and form of leadership will find this plan existing, will commit to making sure that it is brought to eventuality.
And I'm inspired, not by the plan itself, but by the impact that this plan is going to have on a very important region of our country. And I just want to thank you for the context, the insight, the rationale around things that we hear maybe at a macro level, but to truly understand it is something that we appreciate, and I'm sure the listeners of this podcast will appreciate. So thank you, Doctor, for your time. Thank you for your words, and thank you for maybe your insights. And we hope that this will grow and be fruitful for the region, for the province, and ultimately for the country. So thank you for your time, Doctor.
Thank you so much.
Leading provider of innovative supply chain solutions.